Hello, my name is Jacob Hillhouse, and I am here to debate a highly contentious subject to say that the United States was correct in using two atomic bombs on the Japanese mainland. This is a subject I've continuously debated amongst myself, and I often change my own opinion on the subject. But overall, I believe that uh, President Truman was correct in deciding to use the two weapons. I would first like to start by saying I wish there was another way to end the war. I'm in no way happy about the many innocent lives that were taken from these two attacks, and I truly express my condolences for all the killed and wounded, and for all those that were devastated and those whose lives were ruined by these two nuclear weapons. And overall, to say war is a disastrous thing, and sometimes the correct decision is not always a good one. The correct decision is not sometimes an ugly one. So, yes, overall, the decision to use the atomic bombs were ethically wrong. It was the correct decision at the time to end World War II. Um, with that being said, there are several reasons why nuclear attack was the correct decision to shatter the Japanese war effort. By the time of the attacks, most of Japan and many cities were already devastated by prolonged firebombing. For example, the firebombing of Tokyo, actually, which was the devastation of that attack over over one night, both outshadowed the devastation of both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks. And no, I don't want to just count statistics, obviously, because the fallout of the nuclear attacks was much worse. It is something that we need to think about by the time of why Japan did not surrender when we were dropping leaflets, because when they drop a leaflet saying that we have the most intense bomb that can level a whole city, many Japanese people will be like, well, you did the same thing overnight, so I guess we might as well stick in it. So, despite the overwhelming devastation of the Japanese mainland, most of the Japanese population and their morale was unaltered. As in many countries during World War II, a strong sense of nationalism was there, combined with the idea that was promoted heavily in Japan at the time of dying like a samurai, that death was more preferable than surrendering, uh, which we saw in the later years of the war with the kamikaze attacks. Um, and also with the amount of suicides that would occur uh, when the United States was island hopping, both from soldiers and civilians. This idea that dying for the emperor was more favorable than surrendering to America. So naturally, like any country, they're going to put up as much defense as possible to defend their homeland. So by the time the bombs were decided to be used, the Japanese military had about 2.8 million personnel, and also supported by 28 million additional civilians that were told to slow down the Americans by killing them in any way possible and die honorably for the Emperor Hirohito. Um, so by this time, the United States projected that nearly 1 million Allied casualties would be killed in this attack. Keep in mind that this is already once Germany's been destroyed, and a lot of military personnel were already taken or killed in the European theater or in the Pacific theater while island hopping. So mostly the attack would be carried out by the United States forces and Soviet Union forces, which just entered the war because they wanted to express their will in Asia further. Uh, Japanese, the Japanese military themselves thought they would lose an estimated 20 million people in defending their homeland, and they knew that there was no way to win. But it connects back to my idea of this death before dishonor idea that was prevalent in Japan at the time. So when the time came, the decision to use the atomic bomb was the correct decision to save all these lives. There was only three options: a blockade, in which many Japanese people starve to death, a ground invasion that would cost millions of lives on both sides, or using the atomic bombs. As you can see, nobody really knew the true horror that they would do. And once again, I express my true condolences to all the innocents that were horrifically killed in these two attacks. In total, about 200,000 people were killed. Only some 20,000 of them were actually active military personnel. So many of the people that were killed were civilians, and although that was not preferable, ethically it is a wrong idea. It was the best military decision that Truman could do that would not cost another millions of lives. Thankfully, the topography of Nagasaki negated much of the devastation, which actually cut down casualties in the city by a large total. But overall, the decision to use the atomic bombs to end World War II was the correct decision by Harry Truman, and although it is highly debated now, it was the correct decision. It is my opinion that was the correct decision.